Hey guys, it's Skybird, and today we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the Glatorian project, including showing you guys some custom parts that I've selected so far to get this project off of the ground. We're also going to take a look at some doodles here in the book here in a minute, but before we get into any of that, you guys really seem to be enjoying this series. I've got a little bit of sort of rules that I've set out for myself, or guidelines, I guess, and we'll take a look at that as well. If you guys do enjoy this content, make sure you're subscribed. It really helps the channel out a lot. We just passed 1,700 subscribers yesterday, so we're heading in the right direction. We're just going to keep going with it. All right, so let's get right on into it. So we're actually going to hop over into Studio here first, because these are some of the custom parts that I've selected. And you'll notice some of these parts aren't custom. Some of these parts exist. That's true. But they exist after the end of Bionicle. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm taking these parts from the year they were introduced, say 2014 with this Chima axe here, 2016 with this Uniter armor, and I'm basically just taking them from the year that they were introduced and transplanting them into Bionicle, its expansion, right? The reason I mention this is because these will take up what I am calling mold slots. Well, what are mold slots? Essentially, I went in depth, deeply, that's a good sentence there. For the 2007 Bionicles, I really studied them and tried to look exactly, what parts were introduced for that year, what new molds. I was able to count it, maybe I missed one or two, but 52 brand new molds, not including the stuff made for the system Bionicle sets, the play sets, just for that year alone. So essentially, I've given myself a number around 50 to 52-ish. Doesn't matter if it's perfect by any means, but essentially I have that many mold slots to fill. That sounds like a lot, because it is, but you have to understand that part of this, at the very least, is going to be things like helmets, in my case, right? These are Glatorian figures, so they're going to be wearing helmets, and those helmets are going to take up a lot of these mold slots, roughly about 18. Now, here's the thing. I'm perfectly okay with recoloring helmets and using them again, very similar to Ekkar and Barracks. I know a lot of people complain about that, but I don't mind it. I think both characters work really well with that helmet, and so why go against it? We applaud early Bionicle for having recolored masks, so why would we not do the same for later? I'm perfectly fine with it, and if it means stretching that part's budget further, then I'll do it where I can. But that's not where I'm going right now. That's just an afterthought. Going back into this, though, we can see that, with this, wagon wheel or chariot wheel, whatever this is supposed to be, carriage wheel, this is a piece that LEGO has already made, but because I'm transplanting it to earlier in Bionicle, to an earlier year, essentially it takes up one of these mold slots. Custom pieces also obviously take up mold slots as well, because they are by nature custom. They are new parts. So some of the pieces you'll see here, like these three weapons here, are all designed by Galva, I believe. I don't know if these are commissions for anybody else, so I do apologize if I'm missing any other credit, but I know that Galva, I believe, modeled these pieces, and so that's why I'm giving them the credit. A fantastic 3D modeler, by the way. If you have not checked them out, I highly recommend doing so. Very talented creator as well, not just in 3D modeling, but mockist and, weapon creation too. It's fantastic stuff. The shield that you see here is also created by Neveroff, who has been helping to supply me with pictures and information about bootlegs, so high praise to them as well. And I love the design of the shield. It has almost a jester-like aesthetic to it, right? It's got this kind of bubbly feeling, but it feels very right for that sort of gladiator-like feel as well. It's a very nice piece. And then we've also got this shoulder pad piece here, which is kind of like a CCBS inspired. I really like it. It's very smooth, and it leans into, rather, the aesthetic that I'm going for this year. And this was designed, I believe, by someone named Ogginz, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I may have that incorrect, so I do apologize if I do. That said, all fantastic pieces of work, and they all work really well for what I'm trying to do. I'll probably still modify them a little bit further to fit my case, of course, but they're going to fit in alongside these pieces that LEGO had created. There's also a piece that I designed that King Sidorak, had modeled for me, which is this piece right here, and it's literally, essentially, just this piece cut in half. It's actually a very useful piece, because for one thing, if I were to take this piece right here and throw it on the opposite side here, well, you can see we start to get this axle hole right through the center, which is super useful. It's not a piece that LEGO makes. This is also a piece, though, that I actually used with my Ornithopter build. It's not a terribly important piece, but what it does is it locks this gray triple pin here, or double pin here, onto the body, so it can't be pulled off of the body of the vehicle. That way it doesn't just get stuck to the character. If I wanted to reduce parts in this set, that's probably the first couple of pieces that I would remove from it, but at the end of the day, It's really useful. It's a really simple piece. And there's a lot of things you can do with it. A lot of things I've done with it. I didn't even design it for this. I designed it for something like half a year ago or more. So really happy with the design of these pieces so far. And there's plenty more to come of this to come. But I have some sketches here, some very poorly drawn things that are just some, ideas, right? Some brainstorming sessions. You can see the ornithopter build here that I just kind of sketched up last night, and I absolutely love it. Now using the Teryx blade on the back end and the Monkey Kid sword pieces as wings, another piece that I would be taking from 2023 and transplanting in Bionicle. Although I'd probably add some pinhole connections, it would make more sense to have those, and it would obviously fit Bionicle's theme a little bit better, but suffice to say they look like excellent pieces, so it just makes sense to use them here, right? But you also have pieces like this one here, the Calteryx skull, which would actually appear twice, and that's something I wanted to mention. I'm trying to design these pieces so that they're as versatile as possible, so I'm giving them like a lot of connection points and things, but also trying not to alienate the design of Bionicle pieces, right? And so the idea is that Calteryx, the character that we talked about in yesterday's dinosaur video, one of the issues I have with that build right now is that that head is very heavy. Creating a custom piece in the same realm as the Finrack head, but obviously with different dimensions, different connections, different inspiration, means that we would get something that's much lighter weight than what that head is currently. And so it would help to reduce the weight, but it would also help to reduce the parts in that set. And the idea is that this is not just a piece that would be used in the Calteryx set in blue, but it would also be used in gold as well and placed on the front of the skyship, the airship, right? And so the idea is that you're getting two uses out of it. It appears there in gold, and so it's kind of filling that role of, well, classic Bionicle, right? Designing pieces and reusing them over and over and over again. How many sets does the Bittle shield piece or wing piece appear on, It's that kind of stuff. So I love that idea, and you can even see here one of the weapons that I'm working on designing, which is, again, poorly drawn, but is a bident, very similar to and definitely inspired by Kina's trident, so it's kind of like a lineage of this weapon, but the difference is, for one thing, the handle on this one is sort of like a double helix of wire, which I think is really cool looking, or, a wire aesthetic anyway. It has that braided aesthetic to it, and then it's got a pinhole at the base, a pinhole at the top, and just the two tines on the fork here, right? With that said, it's shorter. It's a smaller weapon than Kina's, which I believe is 13 modules long, but don't quote me on that. So the idea is this is somewhere around 9 or 10 modules here with an axle hole at the back. Then I give it to a character in either silver or gold, but also use it on the airship as sort of the tongue for that Calteryx head, and now suddenly we have a snake head or dragon head at the front of this airship. And that's such a cool concept, right? So now, not only am I getting this awesome new weapon, but I'm also using it again. It's a double-forked, weapon, and it also pays homage to the Stingray or Manta Ray logo or insignia that I designed for, I think I called the water village Tessera, which is incorrect, it's Tajin, but yeah, that's the insignia that I came up with for the water village, and so I love it, so it's a callback not only to that piece, the water weapon, it's familially related, that's a weird word, related to this piece here, but it still fills a different role. And to make it even cooler, I also designed this little piece. This is a very simple piece, by the way. It's literally just a Huki Inika chain link piece, but with an axle hole at the base of it. So now you can put it on the end of weapons and strap weapons to chains and, use them, swing them around if you want. Or you can, of course, attach it to the body of a vehicle or something, and now the chains can be attached to those vehicles as well. All of this, the whole point of all of this is to create not just a lot of different uses for these new pieces, but also making sure that each piece, as it's introduced, gets its time to shine, if you will, but also still fills a specific role and appears in multiple sets or wherever possible, right? I love the idea of maybe recoloring, this let me get this back in here. This shield right here, for example, and throwing it on the side of the skyship as like a faux propeller thing, right? Obviously, it doesn't look like a propeller on its own, but it's such a really unique piece. And the nice thing about this is that at the end of the day, this is all fantasy stuff, right? So you might ask yourself, well, how does this thing fly, or how does this thing do this? it's fantasy, you know, imply that it can fly. I thought about maybe putting a propeller at the top of the mast here and then allowing this cloth piece to like open and close would be super cool. But at the end of the day, the propeller doesn't have to be like, oh, proportionally sized to this. There's magic involved, or the atmosphere is different, whatever, right? What makes sense for the toy is more important than what makes sense realistically, because these aren't going to fly in reality. The last thing I wanted to mention is the gimmick for the wave. The cloth pieces introduced on all of the canister-sized or Glatorian sets, and then the cloth pieces introduced for both the flagship, or skyship in this case, and the Calterex. The idea being that there are 4 different types of cloths for the canister sets. One is kind of like a twin coat. The next one is very similar to the Star Wars CCBS Rey cloth piece. Another one is like a shoulder pauldron cloth thing. I don't know if that has a particular name, so I apologize. And then the last one is a waistcoat. And then there's the sail, which is the semicircle, and that could be used both as a sail for the airship, but also flipped upside down and used as a sail for the Spinosaur on Calterex, for the spine, for the sail on Calterex, which I love because, again, that helps to reduce those parts while still looking cool and fitting in with this wave. So I'm really happy with where this is going, if you can't tell already. And so hopefully you guys are enjoying this one as much as I am. I know that this is a little bit vague because it's just brainstorming into a camera here, but honestly, I love this kind of stuff about Bionicle. And so to be in a position where I'm going my own way, paving my own route, you know, is honestly my dream. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. If you did enjoy this, remember to subscribe. It really does help the channel out a lot. And of course, if you want to check out more information like this, or you want to continue the conversation, make sure to leave a comment, or also check out my Discord, Instagram, and Patreon if you want to support the channel and get some perks down in the description below. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care.